record live.
Nice. I had to make sure that the music was going to be playing.
You don't want to just open up on a copyright, you know. So
Oops. Did y'all hear that?
no, I didn't hear
Okay.
it.
All right. It said Bluetooth disconnected in my ear.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Welcome
We're
everybody.
live.
Drink Show Live. Yeah, we sorry. We're discussing the
There were so many good opens, but they would have been copywritten opens, and so we got to work on that because, like, in the lead up, in what people would call the green room, oh man, there were some bangers going on.
Yeah. I'm working out some stuff, right? I'm working some stuff out and just, you know, watching shows and just taking in entertainment, I guess I would say,
Yeah,
and things that I like and trying to figure out how can I use that.
sup, Wallow. Yeah, and we were just talking about it. Like, you discovered one of my recent favorite shows, the what's it called? The Righteous Gemstones. It's on HBO, right?
Yeah, Max.
Yeah, yeah. That was one of my favorite like recent discoveries in my consumption of media. That's the never-ending pool that's out there. Somebody who always delivers. Danny McBride.
Yeah.
I've always loved everything he's done because he does it with like a ragtag crew. Did you know that?
It's the same.
Yeah,
It's
it's the
the Adam
same
Sandler
homies
thing,
that
right?
he's
Coming
been
back.
working with since like early. Like he's done big Hollywood, he's done all the big stuff, he's been those. But if it's like his projects, it's like his homies, and they build it in the places like together. Like it's pretty cool.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it makes the vibes work for them a lot better in that way, especially with comedy stuff. I bet it matters a lot more when you're
For
trying to get
sure.
a certain style across, and somebody can be funny, but just if it's just not for this group, maybe even it
If
doesn't
it's
work.
not
So,
your type of funny.
mhm.
I mean,
Yeah,
comedy fans are that way. Like this comedian fans either really cross over with the other comedian or completely go the other
mm,
direction.
definitely. And yeah, that Righteous Gemstones is an interesting. I haven't sat down and
So
watched
you haven't
Heat
watched it all the way
in a
through,
while,
have you?
so I've caught up now.
Okay.
As soon as I sat down to watch it, so like I had seen stuff like the Baby Billy stuff. I've been using the TikTok stuff, the filters or whatever in the songs. Like I used it for a jujitsu thing one time, and even some dude like came after me talking about why can't a jujitsu coach try to make money, or why can't jujitsu guys make money or whatever without being looked at as like a bad person. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, oh, I thought with the song you were using, it implied that somebody was trying to use jujitsu, whatever, use jujitsu as like a culty thing or whatever to make
Yeah.
money only. And I was
Man, they
like,
really read into that, didn't they?
yeah, I was like, man, I just thought it was
I thought it was
funny.
funny.
Yeah. I just thought it was really funny. And I have never got paid much grappling. And so I just thought it was a funny song to put over me grappling.
Yeah, is what there will be a
There will
payday.
come a, yeah, it's like,
Yeah, yeah.
and again, like we were saying right before we came on a little bit, is there's just something about it, man. Like growing up in the church and stuff, it those songs, it's like, oh yeah, you've heard maybe that tune or that rhythm a lot or whatever, and so it just kind of
Well, in music that's on
does
purpose, right?
something. Yeah,
Like that's what
frequencies
music
and
is.
rhythm and harmony and
Yeah,
yeah,
and that's
mhm,
playing on the aspect
tunes.
of the things that already exist, and
Mhm.
that's look at it however you will, like magic or things that are there, or that like
It is
it the
magic, I think.
frequencies. Oh, dude, everything's magic. Like, how is uh, this not magic? Like, I'm talking into this, it's going through this wire, going into a box, going into a pile of different minerals and things that we pulled out of the ground and smashed into a machine, and then traveling somehow to you and all these people.
There's a big wire in the water in the Gulf
Okay.
from us there. Did you know that?
Yes.
That there's big, just like internet wires, like in the ocean, going from continent to continent.
Yes.
Isn't that crazy?
Yes.
I'm just stopping to let everybody else think about that for a second. There's
That
like an
there's just
actual,
a network of
just
wires that
actual
we
cable from
put.
here to Europe for
Yeah.
for communications,
Yeah. That people put there.
and it works.
Yeah. And it
It's just
communicates, and people maintain that and put that there, and it's something like that's
Oh, bro, that goes right into the thing. We got them on the pyramids. We got them. I told you. We were right. We
that
knew
came
it.
up on your show the other day,
It came
didn't
up
it?
on the
Yeah.
insiders the other day. It's been a hot topic. Sorry to cut you off about the internet water cables,
So what do you
but
know
it's
now that you've gone
connected.
down the
It's
wormhole?
connected. Look, I so they haven't released all the information yet. Obviously, there's this has been years and years looking into it, and stuff. So I don't know if it's more proof of like the flood scenarios, and
Yeah.
and maybe these things are the top of something great. Obviously, they are the top of something that was like existing maybe out in the open. I don't know. I don't know. But if you like, it's just interesting that they would say that it had the cylinders with the coils, the coiling looking thing. It's some kind of energy generating thing. I like what is it? It's the everything is everything. Right. It's the shapes, the we are just a manifestation of the universe or how like get crazy with that stuff or
Is a
whatever. But
tree really even a tree?
I mean, it's the math thing. It's is the angles or the spirals or whatever. Because look
Yeah.
at the galaxies and look at anything. It's like this is spinning while circling something else, and then that circling something else, and then that and it's just interesting. And there's a lot of things in physical science that are obviously related to human behaviors and movements and things like that. So it's just crazy. I think
I mean, it's all the way back to what we were talking about at the beginning, where we were talking about music. I mean, music is sound frequency. Sound frequency makes things move.
mm,
When that makes things move, well, what do you mean by that? Well, I mean, some music makes you want to dance. What's that doing? And you're like,
mm,
huh? Because you're an organic piece of matter that's doing that. And then the sound is making you want to move in the way that you're moving. And then that's what we call water. Water is king. Hmm.
and
That's an
so like
interesting thought.
in the chords or whatever, for sounds, what chords, how many numbers and stuff you can, there's numerical patterns that you can make for music in in those things too. That you can think of it in the notes, I guess, but you could also use those notes numerically and have that as like code or whatever. Was that an airplane just flew behind you?
Boats.
That was crazy.
Isn't this amazing green screen technology?
Couldn't really see very well. Sorry. Tangent.
Yeah. Well,
But yeah,
and so
there's
like, what did you learn about the? Is there anything other than just being like, oh yeah, there's something under the pyramids? More on that later.
well, it's the only the big cylinders and the things and I don't know enough yet. I haven't been able to find any more than just kind of that surface level stuff about it. But a lot of what they're showing is that there's like cylinders that would maybe potentially have had some sort of something spiraling and then they go into a cube in the bottom.
Huh.
And so this could be some sort of energy generating thing. Obviously, we've heard and said several things about that, right? Like with the bass and the jokes about that kind of stuff, but the energy,
Right.
um, alignment, things like that. How it's where it's lined up in the realm of the celestial pattern, etc. So I don't know. There's a lot. If we want to be very serious, if it's all true, that's going to really change. It should change most of what we think about everything.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I mean, to the sounds of it, from what I've like, look, I've been off in the edit cave working on grapplers. I was up for like 30 hours or something on this last stint. So like occasionally I get ADHD and I'll like go look at the news or whatever's going on, and I saw some of it. I remember, now I had a weird exposure to like energy and power, like production and stuff like that. We've talked about it on the show that like I've been around that my whole life, but like I remember at a young age them talking about thermonuclear uh power, which is using energy from the heat from the earth to then create steam to then turn turbines. Because like you understand how like that's made, right? That we're just spinning a magnet around another magnet and that makes energy. Speaking of magic, you're like you spin two rocks around each other and that makes energy. And you're like, what? Like, what does that mean? So I feel like that they're just uncovering something that that they knew existed. Or maybe I'm just so far down the rabbit hole that I feel like that it is common knowledge and it's not. Have you ever heard that term or heard that like theory on like thermonuclear power? I can't be the
Yeah.
only person that's heard that.
No, and I mean it makes sense. Everything that kind of does that, like if you look at the wind things that generate, it's that, and the water is a wheel. It's again, it is what it is. It is a part of the friction or whatever that is.
Right.
It creates energy. The two
Right.
things brushing up against each other,
It's they're not brushing up
colliding.
against each other. It's the magnetic fields going past each other, and
Well,
those
the
magnetic
fields are
fields
brushing
are
up against
right,
each other.
right, at
That
like a molecular level.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's what I mean. That's what causes anything. That's what causes weather. A lot of times, it's
Welcome
like,
to two people who did not do well in science.
whoa, you take. Whoa,
Okay, okay.
I did
Hey,
okay.
I'll
I did
bring
okay.
grade cards. I got to my first chemistry class. I was great in physical science. I was terrible at the other sciences. Like the only
Mm.
math that I can do is in like physics.
I haven't done anything in a long time like that, so it would take some relearning of a lot of it. But I was I was a good book student for sure. Always, I'm
You were a
good
good book student.
good
I
at
was not.
information. I'm good at retaining information, like to
I'm good at
fact,
retaining information. I'm terrible at taking
facts.
multiple choice tests.
Oh no, that's easy. That's pattern recognition.
Yeah, but see, I get distracted by what type of paper it's on.
That's something else. But
Like Scantrons, oof.
yeah,
I
yeah,
just
those
see
are
all the
tough
letters
too.
at once.
Be hard to see, but yeah, a lot of that kind of stuff, multiple choice or any of that standardized test, for me at least, was just easy pattern recognition stuff. Um, Once I'd kind of,
But what's the pattern?
it just is. There's
See,
a way, like
then I just spent Steven, I just spent the whole test thinking about what the pattern is instead of reading the damn question.
right, and you just got to go through it. That's the thing, is like just read it, and then you'll start figuring out the pattern as you go through it. At least that's what
But what pattern, man? We unlocked some stuff with this one, Steven.
It's like in jujitsu, it's the same thing.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
I see how it is. I see
As you
what you're saying.
going, you see the pattern of the way that the questions are coming at you, and you have to have an answer for that
But I
question.
have to ignore the question that I have inside my head right now to
Of
fight
course
the
you
guy
do.
in front of
Of
me.
course you do.
Yeah.
Yep.
I can't ignore that when I'm
you
looking at
only
a
have to
paper.
but you have to think about the question that's in front of you and give that one an answer. And they're going to give you at least one of the answers, especially if there's four, that's going to sound like it, but it's not it. So it's not ever going to be that one.
Right.
And then there's going to be one that's right. There's going to be one that's close, one that's it, and two that are not close. So you just got to find the two that sound right and eliminate the one that's BS, because once you read both of them beside each other, you'll know it's BS.
I'm still distracted by the pattern though.
That's the pattern.
I know, but I'm distracted off to the side. I don't know how to describe what I just unlocked, but you just unlocked some childhood shit right there. Like I'm back sitting
Sorry.
taking my first like multiple choice test, and I'm like, they can't all be A.
They can though.
I know.
They can.
I was the one that questioned myself and would just change my answer because there's
Nope.
no way that's the
Nope.
pattern.
I'm dumb enough to just believe myself. I believe it, and that's been that's what's got me successful and got
I hear you.
times,
I
right?
hear
It's,
you. Yeah.
it's a blessing and a curse. We'll say that for sure, because sometimes the pattern is not right, but definitely on those tests, they want you to do it right, but they gotta like make it tricky a little bit to at least weed out people like
Me.
you.
They're like this. I'm I'm the trap.
But that's the thing is like, you know, this is the thing with some of the traditional education stuff or the way that we do it here at least. I could go and not do really any of the work hardly, but still go pass every test with hundreds, and you know, you never really need to do a lot of the work, so to say. I could just get the information because that's all it was about, was remembering information for the most part.
I need the rabbit trails.
I don't think we got them really much, and so that's the thing is like, I just gotta I real I think so again, realizing what the game was. They just wanted you to get the number high.
The like for me, if I'd had the opportunity to connect the math, like because math was always the hard one for me, right? Like
Mm.
no, like as far as like writing and comprehension and like history tests and no, like I blew that out of the water. And like when science was just memorization, yeah, I got you on that. But when we started talking formulas and started talking things like that, and you started giving me multiple choice answers on formulas and things that like had certain ways, I needed to be able to connect the dots as to the why. I'm a why. Like I always asked, like when I was a little kid to the all the way up to an adult, I sat in a job and somebody like looked at me and was like, "You were like a why kid, weren't you? Like you were like why?" And yeah, because I want why. Like
Not in school too much for me, at least until I got older a lot for sure. Maybe by the end, but definitely I wanted them to be happy. So
yeah,
I was like, yep, do it just like that. Perfect. I can do that. I can do exactly what you just said to do. I can mimic that and make it work to a degree. But if I had to ever like do a different one maybe and show my work, I could get the right answer, but I might not be able to show you how I got it. But I could
yeah.
feel
Yeah, that's also what got me in trouble. Which what hurt me in math like later was that like I
if you can
couldn't
show
show
me
my
the
work.
pattern, I'll use your pattern. But if you
Yeah,
don't show me one, then don't tell me mine's wrong.
yeah.
And I
Because
think
like
that's jujitsu too, right? I think that's it.
yeah,
Is like
yeah.
it's just there's ways to get to answers, and some of them are longer, some of them are shorter. You know,
But
and I
if you
guess
can't show the work, then there's certain things that if you skip and I capitalize on it because I
that's
know
it.
the work,
Hmm.
well then now you have a real life, real world repercussion in front of you of like, nah, like you can't just skip these without knowing why. Because if you
Hmm.
don't know why, I can capitalize on it and bait you into it. And then that's where the bait and switches happen.
Yep.
Of like, I
And
know, you know,
miscalculations.
it's a perfect example because there's a cat that caught me in this. Oh, man, it was probably 2 months ago, a month ago. I don't remember. I was rolling with a guy like in a random place in Mexico, in Morelia, and he did the PJ counter, the 50-50 counter, where like I was like I had the advantage and like I was about to finish it, and then as I was about to go for the finish, I felt him make the switch, and I was like, "Oh, that was really good, dude," because I thought I had you.
Hmm.
I didn't think you knew that one. Like,
Yeah, and that's the difference with the jujitsu part of it, I guess for sure, is that it's fighting back. You know, it's changing as you're going. The math stuff, it should be at least until you get really really deep, right? Like in the physics stuff or whatever, like theory. You know, then whatever. We should probably let other people handle
yeah.
that.
Well, and I would like to point out for one, yesterday was my mom's birthday, so happy
Oh,
birthday, mom! And
happy birthday,
she's
Miss
in the
Amy.
comments, and I will point out.
Oh, I've quit reading comments during the shows.
Yeah,
Just to
no,
just
smart. You should. Your talent. I'm a producer, so I was just reading that, and it's one of those things that like I'm not necessarily talking about how I was educated as a young child because my mom was doing a great job. You know, you're watching. Thanks, mom. But like, no, like, and for real, like I was homeschooled
Oh,
up
your
till
teacher
high
was
school.
hard on you, huh?
And well, not even that, like mom understood how I learned. And like when we were doing like growing up, because I advocate for homeschooling. I think homeschooling is really good. And like a lot of the arguments people have against it is not necessarily like valid if you pay attention to the way that you're doing it, but that's a whole separate argument on itself. More of what I'm talking about in it is that there's the ability to have the rabbit trails. And so like that's where like my learning skill was the fact that like I'm always like literally I'm always trying to absorb information and learn new stuff and do things and whatnot, and that exploration side of it. Where I struggled was when I ended up in scenarios and ended up in places in the like overall like structure of the education system. I didn't understand how to play the game.
Mm,
And that's what you're like, that's the problem of the system of itself that you're talking about, is that like the kids that grew up in it knew how to go, okay, I know how to make you happy and give you what you want. And then the kids that were like me that also explored did that too, but they knew how to play the game. Whereas I would just get, especially at my high school years, like I got to the point that I was like, oh, this is stupid. And so like I would do just enough and then just do my own thing. But I didn't understand how to make my own thing like an accredited thing that made sense to where people were like, oh, you spent all this time learning this stuff. No, I just learned all of it. And now it's like part of my life skills, but no, I don't have like a paper. And that's what I had to learn how to do, is how to play the game and take the test and do the things and apply that pattern recognition. That aside, taking tests for sure, though, you unlock something in that first part of that conversation of like, when we start talking about patterns, I get more distracted by the pattern than the question.
mm, yeah, maybe that. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah,
And so,
that's
yeah.
what I love about jujitsu.
Mm. But yeah, a lot of people's learning style. Again, I was good at facts, and I'm still good at facts and information on things that I want to be. If it's not something that interests me, I probably don't know much about it, especially now, much.
Yeah,
But back then, as a kid, the things that got you over, so to say, or that got you the most praise would be like good grades, being a good student, or maybe athletics and different things like doing the things you're supposed to do at the house, whatever kind of stuff. There wasn't anything too much. We didn't have any other stuff really. There wasn't the internet or any of that kind of things for a long time, really at all when we were kids. But man, those gold stars, right? Getting those multiplication facts right, getting those gold stars, and then like getting those
I did the
certificates at the
summer
end of the.
reading stuff too a lot to get stuff.
I loved winning the awards for the highest like class score for every subject I could or whatever. Like I wanted to get the reading and math and science awards and all that stuff. Like I was trying to be that kid, because that was what was, like I said, that was what was getting me over the most. And so I was like, yeah, I'm gonna lean into this. And then as I got older, I kind of realized that it was just a game like that. And I was, oh crap. It's not going to really work forever, and I don't really enjoy it that much because I think by the time I got to most of high school, I was informationally as far as we were going already, kind of,
Yeah,
because I'd already went mentally kind of far on a lot of stuff. Um, and none of the teachers really not challenged me or whatever, but just didn't have maybe the faculties, so to say, in the public schools to do that. And there were enough of the class clowns around to just join in with that a little easier kind of scenario. So yeah, definitely, man. I see a lot of the merit probably of the homeschool thing, um, a lot more. And it's not a knock on teachers
no,
because I,
yeah,
I believe the teachers are honestly doing the best that they can.
I
But
think currently,
it's like prison. You're in there with the
yeah,
general
yeah,
population and you're being exposed to everything from these children and you don't know what these children are coming to from their home and telling your
predetermined and
child or
yeah,
or
yeah.
talking about and doing and how that's shaping their thought processes and different things like that. It's not the teachers or anybody. Like I say, we're not necessarily saying this. I'm not saying it's them. It's just like that's part of what I can see now. Is like once you get influenced, it's hard
It's hard to
sometimes to
unwire a
unwind. Exactly.
hardwire.
And so for me, I definitely saw that. Like I was like, oh, okay, these guys are cool and having fun, and weren't really doing anything bad, fighting and stuff like that or whatever, making jokes and being dumb. but still that's like enough to get in trouble. But then I would get to go to ISS, and then I would just get all my grades done, get all really high scores, and just chill for a couple days. And school's wild.
It is. It's a wild concept if you think about it too. If you think about like the comparison you just made, that like it's not entirely inaccurate, and it's like that's a weird way that we've chosen
They're
to like.
building them the same way if you look at the shapes of them now.
I mean, now or before. I mean, even the old ones.
I mean, maybe so, but now definitely where there's that like center hub, and then
Oh
everything
yeah, yeah,
goes
yeah,
off of it
yeah,
like that.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like a safety thing they say for sure, for
for
that
sure.
too. But like
Yeah.
it's just interesting to think about it that way because people need to be educated. People need knowledge. People need to learn things that maybe they aren't able to at home all the time or whatever. But there's definitely a level of that this is unnecessary to have them there maybe that long every day. I think I
I
think you can get
mean,
through a lot more, or you could do the same amount with a lot less time.
it
It
depends on
seems.
how tinfoil hatty you want to go into it too. Is that if you think about the education and what education has been versus what education has become and the models that it follows, what's it really for?
Yes, to help get
Education
workers.
to control a population of people that are going to work and create the goods to run a country.
Mhm.
And that's not a negative knock towards anything you're saying. Like I'm really like not stepping off over that eggshell, but like it's
If we didn't have an
ultimately
educated population, we would not be a healthy population. The
right,
less education, the less educated your population is, the more likely you're to be exploited.
which is what it should be used for.
Yes.
That's the best diplomatic way, I believe, to say it.
Everything is so situational, man. This is such a
Yeah.
big place. This is such a big place. There's so many schools. There's so many individuals, doing it. You can't pin it down. But that's another argument towards maybe the homeschool thing for people who are able to do that and want to do that, because it does give you that, you know, choice and freedom to influence how you see best,
Yeah.
rather, in that way.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that there's all kinds of different ways where there's the education that you have is influenced by the experience of the person that of the teachers. I mean, you see that in jujitsu. It's like
Yeah.
talking about the eco and versus like if you spin that all around to martial arts, like we're talking about the ooh, that was the first bug of the season.
Mm.
Um but like if you spin that all the way around to like the argument between where people really first started coming to the defense of the traditional way of like teaching jujitsu, it's like they're like, well, the only way that I know that that works is because my coach knows that that works, and that's how I was taught that, and that's how his coach's coach taught him that, and his teacher's teacher, and his teacher's teacher, and it's like, well, then there's also the aspect of like, well, what have you learned from your own experience with that? And so it's like the difference between the eco and the what are they calling the other style? Traditional
I don't know.
in that argument.
I don't know.
Ah, I
I don't
thought you
really
were
argue with anybody about it.
I thought you were deeper in the wormhole, at
Oh,
least in the terminology than I
I'm
was.
learning about it. I'm not arguing about it with anybody. I'm just learning about the constraints led stuff. I'm not really trying to compare and contrast or anything like that. I'm just learning about the other one. I've already been exposed to the way that we learned because I did that.
Right.
So I'm trying to learn the way that I
Trying to be
didn't
exposed
already
by the
learn.
new
Yep.
way.
Trying to experience that so I can make a judgment on that now with my current information that I have already of whatever's with years is how many 15, 16 years, whatever of experience now.
Which just proves, yeah, like that's further down exactly what we were just saying.
Yep.
Is that like that's the secure education is the one where you can have kind of the weight of the both, is that you have your own. experience and your own like ability
Well, I
to
realized,
determine.
you know, even before I was, done competing and stuff or whatever, but like the more I started mostly only coaching and thinking about it that way, that what I had did and what I do doesn't really matter that much overall. It can help. It can give you an idea, but what I do doesn't always really matter. You got to do what you would do. You got to do what feels best for you. You got to do what works for you. And some of the things I'll tell you work for you, and some of them won't work. But everything is again situational dependent, and everybody's so different, variabilities and body types. Even though you may weigh the same, your limb length and heights it could be different, and are you an amputee or anything like that that changes things, for various reasons or whatever that you got to figure out? Or do you have an injury? Are you young and don't have much strength yet? Are you old and don't have much strength still?
So, as a teacher, when you're teaching people all this and you're lining it up for them, how do you set that up for somebody?
Well, and it matters what the game or the situational stuff, whatever you want to call it, the situational sparring
Okay.
game that we would play or whatever, doesn't necessarily emphasize any one strategy necessarily to do the job. You just have a job to do. If trying to simplify here and say that it's like you're standing up over me. Why would somebody be standing over you?
Because I've pushed them off of mount.
So they were already mounting you. How did they get there?
How far back are we zooming
Well,
out?
that's what I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
that's
Okay. Okay.
kind of
That's
where it
what
goes
matters. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
person,
okay.
right? You know what I mean? It's like, well, if you've already been mounted before, man, you might be tired. You might already be, beaten up, and this dude's done wore you down a lot or whatever. Or was that quick that you did a little hip bump and then pushed him back out or whatever, you know what I mean, and got him standing back over you. And so then in that situation, though, you guys are grappling. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and just say we agree that we're grappling. We're not fighting. We'll just say grappling because that would change what we're doing too if we say fighting or whatever it is. Um, he's standing over you. What's he got to do to win? Right. What are his things to do that he needs to do to win? He's got to get probably past your legs, or at least get in there enough to get his knees up close to your hip line to start attacking a leg or something, even maybe, or getting past them and getting chest to chest or chest to back, or getting, control of this head and shoulder loop in some way. That's generally it. Simplify. There's tons of other things probably, but we'll
Right.
just say get the back, get the mount, get the side control, the dominant positions, or attack your legs. That's kind of what they're gonna do, or they'll get your head somehow if you sit up. But if you're on your back, right, and they're standing over you, they can't get your head.
Okay.
So
And
then
that's the
that becomes an
concept of
affordance when you rock up that now you can grab the head. But if they're on their back like that, you shouldn't go grab their head.
because
But
you
I can,
can't do anything with it. Yeah.
yeah. And so if I, make it ask you to do things like that or whatever,
So what about north south?
that's past the legs. But are you chest to chest?
Ah. Okay. So
Right. So that's another thing. If you're sitting on their frames, you're not chest to chest. I don't think. At least that's the way I'm saying it. Because they can get a knee in, they can get a whatever. You've got to be between that elbow and knee space. And I want you, at least I say chest to chest. Again, we can get really
well,
granular.
it's what Eddie's calling the flat mode, right?
I mean, definitely flat mode is basically a north south ish kind of thing. I think that's still, to me, would be a side control ish because you still would be getting that arm up above their head. But I got sweaty. Um, Maybe that is not what is that's the thing. That's the thing. We want to call these things certain positions, or we want
Yeah.
to call it like I don't care what you want to call it, but if your legs are far away from his legs and you're pinning his shoulders and he can't rotate, to get back over or whatever, then yeah, you're in one of those that's what he's trying to do, or he's trying to get you to roll over so he can get your back and get a chest to back connection. That's it.
And then
Or
those in betweens are what are like the
that's
important
what
parts.
you've got to
Yeah,
do.
yeah,
You've
yeah.
got to do that. And so then I put you in those moments to where, okay, he's standing over you, guy on top, you need to get your knees past their hip line, meaning you can go in the middle, split their stance, get your knee in there, right? But you're keeping your hands on their legs, the whole time that we're doing this. Or you can go like to the outside and almost be in that like knee on belly ish kind of position, but you're just mostly getting your knee in the area, the visual kind of area past their hip. And then the bottom guy's job is to not let them do that, but mostly try to put your feet on them. Keep your feet on them. Be sticky with your feet right there. Because if you can get your
Okay.
feet on them, typically they are not going to be able to get their knees in those positions as much. If your
In
feet,
those
because of the
pockets.
range, because of
Yeah.
how much, and so then something like that. And then now is like,
It's kind of like learning how to jab.
yeah, why would you do this? Why would somebody like, and then, okay, it's like, cool. Now, bottom guy, your job is just to get to your knees. Top guy, you got to start here like this and you got to hold them down. It's so easy for people to just to get to their knees if that's what they want to do. It's so hard to hold somebody down from there if they just want to get up until you've established a better positional spot, like getting your knees past their hips or getting chest to chest, or
Which then teaches position before. Yeah.
yep. And so then that's just kind of how I'm doing it. I'm seeing things and asking them to do certain things, and then when they collectively do it, I can make suggestions to the individual based on the opponent,
Okay.
because it's not a blanket statement to you to do this every time, because this guy's 6'3", 220. If the other guy that you go against today is 5'6", 120, you don't have to do all that. So I can't give you that answer today because I don't even know it for you, maybe. But I can give you that abstract of like, well, if they're small, you just da 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 da. But if they're tall or if they're big or if they're whatever, it doesn't matter. Who are you going with right now? That's the problem you got to solve. And it makes every situation important that way too, because you'll see he's got big head and neck and shoulders. He's got really long arms and legs. These things are not going to work the same on those two guys. Not the same exact, thing, but you can do the same thing to those guys, maybe. But maybe there's a different one that's better against this guy.
Yeah.
And so, trying to fit a round peg in a square hole, so to say, every time. It's a round hole a lot of times, but sometimes it's square, and we've just been hammering it. And you've heard me say this, just trying to hammer it into the hole. Yeah, that works. A lot of us can do that. A lot of people can do that, especially the athletes, especially the dominant ones. But the average person is not going to be able to hammer that, or the person who's the lesser athlete, lesser physical person, they can't do that. So now
That's why
what
there's
do they
always the
do?
diminishing return on that. Is that
There's,
like the athlete that does that eventually finds out like whether
you're
it's
eventually the small guy. You're
yeah,
eventually the old guy.
yeah,
That's what I was saying earlier. You're eventually the old guy now.
you're injured, you're sick, you're
Yep.
whatever, and then that's
Yep.
when
You
your
hurt your knee. Now you
jujitsu,
only
if
have
we're
one leg
yeah.
compared to the two that you had for the past while. You have the other leg, but it doesn't work the same ever
What do
again.
you mean you can't do a backflip past his guard now? I twisted my ankle in the first round. And you're like, oh, now what do
That's
you
all he
do?
had. And so that's what I'm saying, that all that stuff matters, and your affordances could be a lot higher. The things you could do could be a lot more when you're younger, faster,
Which is the
stronger,
story of athletics. I've
athletic. That's the
I've had this thought is that like is that wrong necessarily because when
not
we're
if you
talking
have
about
it.
this from a sport, yeah, from a sport aspect, well, yeah, that's why all of the best NFL players and NBA
That's why
players are
everybody's taking
23,
steroids, because it
and
matters.
then when they're
All these
25, they
guys
start
with their
taking
excellent
steroids. Yeah,
technique and all these DVDs and stuff that are juiced up, to the gills or whatever. Like, okay, but still, athletics, being big and strong, it must be better than the technique too. If that technique's not enough,
It definitely helps.
it does in a lot of ways. And I'm not saying that technique's not good either or whatever. I'm just saying is like we all know size, strength, speed matter in a
you're
competition.
you're a big strong guy
Yeah,
and you're honest.
not compared to some people, but yeah, right. Not compared to
So
some people.
yeah. So which makes you an even better example on the fact of you've experienced it too. Is that like, yeah, there are guys that can just straight muscle stuff.
I can't.
That
Yeah.
Kimura,
Mm-hmm.
like not the move, the guy.
Yeah.
One and the
True.
same.
True story.
He made that famous because he was a big strong man doing a big strong man move, just ripping it off.
But it works.
But it works, which doesn't take away the fact that there is leverage, there are things that they do understand. Those athletes do figure out how to game it, like you said, towards them, because they see the shortcut and they're like, well, I can just jump from here to there. Why don't you jump? And you go, ha ha, because I can't.
Yeah. And so then you have to sit and redo it. You have to sit and reverse engineer it. You have to figure out what way that works for you. And so, yeah, I don't Kimura a lot of heavyweight. Don't work. Too big, too strong. They stick their hand down there into that knee pocket or whatever it is, or they're flat and I can't get them to get their hand behind their back and different things like that. Yeah. So no, it doesn't work as much. Some dudes necks are too big to actually rear naked choke them. I know that's crazy. I mean, you can do it, but when they're fresh, you
Yeah.
can't. You have to wear them out first and get them out of breath and make it where they can't already breathe somehow. Then it works a lot more. That's another thing people don't consider. Some moves work great, but not if he's fresh.
Yeah.
The
He
fresher
just
they are,
stands
the
up.
less everything works.
Yeah.
And that's you got to be in the fight long enough. And that was one of the things this morning actually at 6 a.m. We're going is like, we're doing a 3-minute round of some of this stuff. And it's like one of the main things that makes somebody like great and able to win and things is like being able to like maintain a winning condition. Like staying in the winning place more longer until the opportunity to actually win comes along.
Well, I mean, why do most of the goats become and stay the goats to be called the goats is because they all figure out how to stay there once they get there.
Well, that's what I mean, right? You got to have that. And so I don't know. It changes all the time for everybody. Everybody day to day. Every month, every year, something happens, changes. New people come in. It matters. If they're big and strong, it matters. If they're fast and conditioned, it matters. If they have like a really weird body type of any sort, it can matter, especially if they know how to use it well. Everything matters in that way. And that's where I think this approach is giving a little bit of that, maybe I don't want to say like private lesson kind of thing or whatever, but you can get a more personal lesson if you're willing to try it each day. Instead of just believing that you come in, you got the master's lesson and that's it. So
That's where you approach the it never ends type of thing. Like when people talk about getting your black belt as just the beginning.
yeah,
That, like
because
you're learning something new no matter what it is every single time you take a look at it. Because truthfully, that's actually what's happening. Every time you're interacting with something, every time you're learning something new, every time you're doing something, that's the first time it's ever you're ever experiencing it, right? And
And
so,
looking at
like,
this stuff for the first, as in looking at this from a different lens, a different viewpoint than I have, is teaching me things that I knew, but in a different
reinforcing.
context. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
another. So now it's another way to do the same thing.
Yeah.
That's the mastery side of it. Is you can do the same thing 10,000 ways. Now that you can do 10,000 things, mastery is
To know it deeply is to know it broadly, isn't that right?
yeah, something like that.
Whatever they
That's
say.
Isaacism.
I feel like that was pretty accurate.
If the water's deep, boy, you can swim, but be careful. What?
You should, but those are all valid
That's yeah.
points.
It's like that bad purple belt advice on the PGF insiders. They all just end up giving really good advice. It's like, what's going on, guys? I got to get some bad purple belts in here.
They just end up being right.
They're just nice people. They don't want to tell somebody actual bad advice. I guess it's funny, but yeah, all that stuff. And so you brought it up a second ago too, the Grapplers episode
Yeah.
that came out.
What episode are we on? Episode
I gave you some timestamp. Let me see where we were at
3.
on that stuff.
I have to remember what is out there. Episode 4 is the
Oh,
last episode that's
okay.
out.
Let me see. I'll do this stuff then. Let me pull it up here. You talk about what you're feeling working on everything.
This has been one of the most organized we've ever been with it. And so we ended up capturing the whole picture with grapplers because we started trying to build this back in like season 4 and very quickly realized why there's a lot of people on the end credits in a documentary. Because it's just there's so much that goes on then when you're trying to build something like that, when you're trying to like capture moments and see everything that's going on, and like there's just so many layers to what's happening because there's the front of the house, of course, there's like the people on the couches, there's like the in-house show, which is like a really kind of cool, like what they've been going for the whole time. It's kind of like the James Bondy, like there's a bunch of people sitting around like watching people fight in the middle, like super high class. Like there's that layer. Then there's the TV layer where everybody's like watching it from home and they're experiencing all the different things like that. And then there's the like on the floor, what's happening behind the curtain, what's going on. We've talked about that on the show here before, is that like it's like the back of a kitchen, like there's people getting shot, there's like not really, there's you know, the whole house is on fire type of vibe. But then there's this other thing that you and I've talked about as being competitors that have competed in the PGF. And there's the experience of what it's been deemed by many people, like not just us, not just like everybody organically says this, is it's a gauntlet of they come in and they fight 3 times a night. They get 12 matches and everybody gets hung up. And we were just talking earlier on like definitions, like everybody gets hung up when they hear 3 matches a day. They're like, oh, I go to ADCC and fight 4 times, 5 times. Yeah, I do trials every other weekend, or I do opens every week. Like they get hung up on the like 3 days, and then they forget that they were saying this is a week long. So no matter what happens in those 3 matches, tomorrow you got to do it again. And you got to come in and you better be fresh and you better be excited and you better have the same smile painted on your face that you walked into the draft with, because you got to keep that up every single day. And what you end up seeing is that like there's no space to be, for a lack of a better term, and I don't mean this like I'm not firing this off as a shot. If you take it as a shot, take it. But like you can't be fake. You can't be putting on a gimmick. You can't have like a one trick pony. You can't have a and I'm talking about not just your jiu-jitsu, your personality. Like you can't fake it for a week like that. You're just getting kicked while you're down. Like it never lets up. It's like getting pinned to the bottom, and then just you think like once you'll pop your head up, you'll be like it's over, and they're like nope, 3 more. Like, and it it's indiscriminate. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter. The thing that it does to everybody is it allows you to take the thing that we like love and hold sacred so much as like our jujitsu and our like the art or the like sport of it or whatever you want to call it. And it lets you, if you are willing to put it out there, it lets you test it, like actually test it, which was the whole freaking point of any of these competitions that exist. The whole point of the UFC, the whole point of No Holds Bar, the whole point of even the Gracie
Challenge.
Gracie challenges and all the dojo like wars, like all that shit was to test the jujitsu to see if it really worked if somebody was not letting you use it. That's the only thing that mattered.
Yep.
And I feel like that in making this one, the changing of the guard, it has shown that in the most clear picture on the ground level that we've done so far. That's my sleep lacked like elevator pitch of like what I feel like is coming across and like what you see that like makes it all the way out of the edit. Cause I mean, there's stuff that ends up on the edit floor that like is just crazy. Like it's the wildest thing. It's been the craziest thing to experience because you just kind of get to sit there as a fly on the wall and watch this everything happen.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. And yeah, it shows itself every single time that it's not what people thought it was. And so I got this thing here. If you want to do the screen share, one of the things I wanted to kind of show there. Do I need to push the play stuff or whatever?
Yeah, you got to hit play.
Look at that ugly mug. Well, can you hear it?
Yeah.
But this is pretty cool right here. Some of the coaching from Pedro and Ricky.
Yeah.
Showing that reversal right here, but look, this is the point.
Anytime right there. You want to hold somebody? Put your hand on the floor and trap the guy here. Don't hold him.
Crazy.
If I hold him, he move. I cannot stop it. But if I put my hand over there, try to move it up.
So those little things that
one of my top priorities has been
out there. Here, we'll go ahead and stop that now.
Yeah, there you go.
Pull it up. But that's one of the really, really cool things. I think that if you're not there, you may not ever get to see.
Oh, and dude, yeah.
I think that kind of thing is what people are looking for when they're saying they want to drill. Is they want that kind of information that they can drill that. I don't think you need to, though. I don't think that's a thing to drill. That's a thing that's in a certain that like says that's a specific moment.
So
right, and it's a good thing. Like I've done both, and I'm not saying that I didn't do right or didn't need to be taught that, but I don't know that I ever needed to drill it for 20 minutes or whatever, 20 times in a row or anything crazy to get it.
I don't remember if that specific moment, if it got set on camera or not, but I think it did because I remember editing that and there's a lot of this and there's a ton, dude. The amount of jiu-jitsu information that I learned just sitting there editing these because like you see these conversations with greats like that. Now, there's multiple times that they say this is that like in that moment, I don't remember who they were coaching, but they were actually talking about like a specific moment that somebody got stuck in with somebody's like best play or like somebody was having an issue with that specific moment. And they were solving that for everybody in the room for like, hey, if you run into this with this guy, here's how to solve it the best way. And this is kind of like the best way that I've like found to do it. And what I believe Pedro says it a couple times. I don't remember which ones make it into the episode sometimes, but like he said this a couple times where he's like, I'm just planting seeds for these guys. He's like they already know everything. He's like, they're professionals. Like, and not even, I think just recently I heard Pedro say, all of them have said this. Like Hodger said it last season when we made it, is that like, there's not anything that they're going to teach these guys that is going to be a aha, like all of a sudden, but there is something that they can do. And this is where you're talking about GOAT coaching paired with GOAT athlete, is that you go, all he has to do is recognize the ledge that he's on and just go here and push him off the ledge. And he knows he's good enough to understand the lesson and walk away with what he needs. And so like what you're talking about, what people are looking for in that, and like in those moments, they're not ready for the lesson. They're asking for this. They want to go buy the instructional and all that. And it's like, you haven't done all the stuff to know the information to understand it.
It doesn't matter.
Even some of the guys that are in those rooms that are the athletes, and I won't name anybody, they don't even understand what they're getting or what they have because they haven't had enough experience.
because they want to tell them what they would do.
Yeah.
I've seen that so many times. Guys are telling these coaches what they would do, how they would do it instead, or what,
I'm glad you see those.
and I'm like,
It's so funny.
it's not my business. It's not my business. It's not your business. It's not your, so I have to just kind of let it be. But I'm just like, bro, don't you know who this is?
They're like, yeah. But I've found my favorite one that I've heard, because I've heard everybody say this. And look, I'm sure I've been guilty of this at some point, doing this to somebody. Like I'm laughing because this is funny, because you'll see somebody like you're talking about, like show them the specific way to solve the problem, and they literally, you watch them just go, well, I found really good success doing it this way. And you're just like, bro, do you know who that is?
Okay, I guess.
And what here's the lesson to take away from the goat that gives them that. You see it on their face when they go, okay, and they genuinely, okay, I'm
Whatever.
just giving you my tidbit.
You'll find out.
Yeah,
You'll
and
figure
they
it out.
know that, like, because how many thousands of times when you're that
Right.
good has somebody been like, well, I found a better way, and you're like, cool, I haven't seen it yet, but cool.
Yeah, and if it works, it works. Great. Perfect. Good for you. Sorry. Or not sorry, but just good for you. Like if that isn't the best way for you, then fine.
Yeah,
But that'll be for you to find out. And if you never go test it, then you'll never know. But
Yeah.
if you want to go test it, then you'll find out. I got one more clip that I was going to play, and again, we could
Okay.
do this one or not, but it's not to pick on somebody. This just kind of wanted to highlight a little bit of what kind of you were saying about how hard it is in the PGF. We'll have a multiple season veteran talking about how his season was going so far. Okay, so I'm ready when you are. You ready?
Yep.
The rule
So
set
it's not Paul.
is, you have to be extremely aggressive because of warning calls.
There it is.
If you don't want a warning, just
I
come
didn't want
to
this
die
one.
on the mat, and then
You gotta
that's
watch
it.
this part.
I'm getting my ass beat so much. It's just comedy. It's just comedy now. I'm not even mad. I just gotta laugh. Just gotta laugh it off.
So with that, like Kamoy's a multiple season vet. He's always tough. He's always been in the playoffs. He's been a runner up for the finale season. It's interesting to see the level that this thing's gotten to now, to where that's a candid remark he's willing to make like that too, and his evolution too as a competitor. Again, I know we're just giving like a love fest to Kamoy, I think, on the shows here, but it's definitely been one of the big character arcs, I think, of the PGF in that way too, to where now he's an old vet, to where he's like, whoo, man,
Them youngins.
yeah. It's like, I just gotta laugh at that, and
Yeah.
it's just like, that's all you can do, right? That's
Yeah.
like, there's no
Yeah.
like, and you gotta play, you gotta keep playing,
Just
and
keep playing the game, and just
and,
keep,
and hopefully and if you can keep that kind of attitude, I think more guys will be more successful.
Yeah.
But it does beat you down. It does.
Yeah.
It can, and nobody likes to lose. And it circles into even some of the stuff, helping coach a lot of these little baseball team and stuff like that lately. Losing sucks. Nobody likes to lose, right? It's not very fun, but you can't expect to win if you're not doing everything to win, and that's team thing makes it different because it's not just you, but that's what I mean. It's like, it's still like, that's a universal thing.
Losing to some degree is inevitable no matter what, right? Even if you're like, say, the
Right.
greatest of the
Well,
greats
you
of
just
like
gotta-
winning, like
if
you're gonna
doing
lose
the
at
best
something.
you can, though. That's what I'm saying. Is like, if you're losing because you're doing things incorrectly, because you're not prepared, or you're not trying hard, or different things like that, that sucks. But if you're playing well, or you're doing things correctly, and you lose, it shouldn't feel so bad.
Yeah, and what
And
I
I'm
mean
saying
by
I'm not
that,
making
it doesn't.
mistakes, as in like, as in like getting beat or an error, or not like that. I'm saying like checking out mentally, doing those kinds of things to where
Yeah.
you're not prepared and things like that.
See, I feel like that those expose themselves, even if, I guess that's also too, is that like when I'm talking about the grapplers in particular, is that like in this, you can see the full picture for the first time of like all of what you're talking about, is because there's every type of personality. There's the person that can just like shrug it off, and then there's the person that it bothers, and then there's the person that underprepared, or that overprepared, or that didn't do the right things, or didn't, and like depending on how honest with themselves they are, That's to what degree do they get the lesson, and you can actually see it.
Right.
And that's what's been crazy to me about the PGF and watching it every season, every time it happens, is like you can watch it happen and you can pick the characters and you can see who it's going to happen to. And some people surprise you. Some people come out of the woodwork and you're like, dang, I didn't see that, like in their personality.
Mhm.
And it's one of those things that I think that's a testament to the test of like what it is that like that it's such a I don't know the word though that I'm looking for, but it's like such a good example of like what we're trying to show, that like it plays out cleanly every time.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about the rankings? Any?
Yeah. I mean, it seems to be a hot topic for you.
It finally is a hot topic. I guess people don't even know. Like, they just think I'm just out here randomly starting trouble. I don't do that. It's only for purposes. But here I got it. I can share it again real quick. Hold up. This is cool when I figured this out. Y'all, I'm leveling
You're
myself
getting
up.
more and more powerful as the moments go by.
Scary. All right, it's ready if y'all are.
All right.
But this is the official PGF XP leaderboard. Okay, then you can find this at pgf.world, the PGF rankings. That's what you can just Google PGF World Rankings, and this will come up. This has every person who has competed in a PGF event listed in there, from the top competitors down to guys who have been in qualifiers and things like that. And so we could just kind of run through a top 10 really quick right here. Ryan Aiken at 1, 2, Hunter Colvin, Jonathan Roberts. So if you guys aren't familiar as much with Jonathan Roberts, this is the elbow genie that, if you've heard of that point in the first minute of the match, that's him. So
Okay.
to see him up there as high as he is kind of surprising in a way, but given his history as a finisher, it gives some credit to him. 4, Jabroni Elijah Carlton. 5 is Andy Varela. 6, Jet Thompson. 7 is Chris Wojcik. 8 is Sam Barbosa. 9 is Matt Elkins, and 10 is Marcin Machulovic. So that's a pretty tough list right there in the top 10. And it's kind of hard to argue much with any of those people being in the top 10 and others not. We can scroll down a little bit and see. What do you think about that top 10, Isaac?
Dude, I'm trying to pull it up to where I can see the full list. My screen.
You'll have to end up scrolling it, or whatever. It doesn't
Uh,
allow for you to pull the whole entire list.
No, I see.
hundreds of people.
Yeah. I mean, dude, just in the top 10, you're talking about people.
Should you switch back to us?
Yeah, I'm trying to see the list, but yeah, I'll switch to us. Thanks. The top 10 people that are on there, we're talking about people that you could throw them in any of the top promotions in the world right now, and they would perform well.
Mm-hmm.
Like they would perform well, and like that's something that's really interesting to me from a objective point of view on one of the hot topics that has come from the most recent Grapplers episode, is that it's interesting to me that when people get into the PGF and they start running it, they hear sub only, and I feel like that we've gotten kind of a skewed view on what sub only actually is as a community. Sub only means, can you get submissions? We've not had a single rule set until now that the only way you win is by getting as many submissions as you possibly can. That's the only rule set that exists on the planet right now. That's the only way you can win. Am I wrong?
I can't say that it's 100%, but that's the only one that's kind of a major.
The only one that you can make $40,000 and get the only way that you win is that you get submissions. It's the only one that exists.
And so
it's if you take people that are good in that rule set, well, then they're definitely going to get submissions in other rule sets. Whether or not they win by points and learn how to play that game, yada yada yada, who freaking cares? Is that like, and this is can I have an Isaac hot take? Can I have a segment?
Yeah, run it.
We've been arguing over who the best was at shitty wrestling for a long time. Is that basically all we've been doing is winning tournaments at bad wrestling, at who could score more points at a dumbed down version that can't wrestle. And there's some very good wrestlers in our community. I'm not taking a shot at any one single person. I'm just saying that we've been determining world champions in submission grappling when there has not been a submission. There have been people that have won sub-onlys that didn't actually get a submission in the sub-only. And so it's not true sub-only. Sub-only means that you get submissions. If there's not very many submissions in the PGF, then it's a low-scoring game. Well, there's low-scoring NBA games all the time because guess what? People's defenses get really freaking good. Well, when the only point is submission, then that's the argument of whether or not you're good at sub-only.
I can't argue with you too much there. No, that's it. Good. And so we'll go back over here, and so, or you can hold on just 1 second, I guess, before you click back over if you can. So now the issue at hand, the situation with Cute Kevin.
Okay.
It all developed really from these rankings, right? You know, Kevin and I have been pretty cool with each other for a while. We've traditionally gotten along, historically been on spa days together and whatnot. But so the way the PGF rankings are, like I said, it has everybody that's ever competed in there. Well, I have competed in there, as has Cute Kevin. The way the rankings are, it's like an XP from what I was told from Brandon, who created this system to have it rated that way. And if you want to click over here now, Isaac, I'll screen share with you.
Okay.
You just let me know.
You're up.
Okay, you can see right here at 27, right there is him. That's Mr. Kevin, right? And so we'll go down just a little bit, and then at 40, there's a familiar name.
Okay.
You know, and so at 2091.59, and then he's at like 2127.45. That's not a big gap, really, right? But that's a big number difference, and that bothered me, right?
Okay.
And so Brandon said weight classes and stuff aren't that determined on it. Well, what matters is if you have a match with somebody at an event, at a PGF event that is ranked higher than you, and you beat them, then your score would go up and their score would go down. So I feel like, you know, taking Kevin out, which would be easy, is like a target that I should be looking at there to move myself up those rankings, right? And so I don't know, you know, it wasn't ever really like supposed to be personal. It was really just about the rankings. But now it's gone too far.
Now it's gone too far. What was the line that went too far?
I don't know. He called Brandon crying and was like really upset, and Brandon, you know, didn't know what to do, you know, in that situation really, because what was he gonna do? But in that moment, you know, Kevin in his delirium, he asked for a match, and so
there is a match.
I'm gonna have to oblige him. You know, I'm gonna have to oblige him. We got a date set. Can't really release it yet, but it's coming up soon. It'll be official PGF match. You know, it's a sad thing. It's kind of like putting your dog down or whatever. You know, it nobody wants to do it, but it's just one of those necessary things that you got to do in life, right? So, you know,
would you kinder this to the end of Old Yeller?
sort of the feeling that people are going to probably get from this, but I think Kevin will be all right. He'll be able to bounce back. He'll be able to bounce back from it. Maybe he'll just be ranked lower, unfortunately. Well, as he should be though. Like there should be no question of that. And again, I said it last week. I'll say it again this week. Is like it's Brandon's fault for making the rankings. I never asked for this. I never really wanted this, but when you put me up there with a number lower than that guy, I just got to do something about it. Just got to. I don't know. And so we'll see, Kevin Sherrill, if you're ready to defend that belt, the belt that I created. Come on, bring it back home to daddy.
Well, on that note, I feel like we covered everything.
We're living good. Got out here. Like all jokes aside, the jokes made it happen. It's funny. Like people are like apparently thinking we're talking about it and sending around that thing with the first one I did or whatever when I was just talking trash about Kevin or whatever, the dollar store haircut line. Like got him. We got like a segment on the bullpen where they were talking about it and stuff. And so like he had to. That's where Kevin was at. He had to make a statement on the show, and so he kind of spoke. He spoke a little bit too.
A little too freely.
He couldn't back up from what is out there now, right? And so I think we're both at that point to where we said things maybe that were just joking, but now we got to fight to the death about it, and that's just manhood.
I'm here for it.
that's just guys, right?
Me and Keelan aren't going to turn the cameras off.
No, of course. It's going to be an official event. That way, I can get that ranking. I'm trying to see how high I can go for beating somebody like that.
Because that is a thing that's developing. I don't know, like it's somewhat public that we're talking about. That is that like if you compete against each other as in PGF rule sets and in PGF shows, sanctioned events, you can move within the ranking system.
Yep, forever.
And here we are.
Forever. And so me being a season 2 guy, the numbers that I had and the opponents and different things like that, those won't hold up over time as well because there'll be more and more people coming in doing more and more events and things like that, which is whatever. That's everything always, right? But it's just part of like the understanding of the way things are.
Yeah.
Because my strength of schedule in season 2 was decent and relatively tough, but over the course of time, the PGF qualifiers, some of them have been that deep in talent. And so it's hard to quantify those together, but that's where the XPs would come together and their rating versus your rating would matter. And if it's a qualifier event that has standing versus a season event versus a playoff event versus a super fight, they all have different weighted outcomes as well versus each other. I say it's really complicated. I don't understand it because it wasn't made for me to understand it in that way, but there is one, and hopefully it really does catch on and it becomes a thing forever, because that would be cool to have like something that is like a rating. You know what I mean? It's not just this guy was the greatest of all time. This guy's the greatest of all time. This guy's the greatest of all time. And it's all just generational because it's who was the greatest when you were there.
Yeah.
But there's never been like a real, I don't think, thing that measured who's been the greatest statistically weighted or whatever it is even.
Well, definitely there's not been, because I mean we haven't had the computational ability. I mean, there's systems, like you can put people through systems and do all that and whatnot, but like this is going to start existing like on the like history books as far as like part of like
some advanced analytics.
Speaking of school, that was not a class I did well in.
Nope, but that's the thing that people want to be looking at though. A lot of times they want those stats and they want to know, and then as it grows, you'll have guys, and then I think that rating would matter for maybe how drafts go a lot more than just the eye test.
Not just like, oh, I know this guy or he beat this guy. Yeah,
he's got a whatever rated.
This
XP.
is his rating.
Mm-hmm. And so that gives you
actual
quality
value.
wins and I think that's going to be very interesting as
That's
time goes
interesting.
along.
Ooh, that'll be super interesting.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And I just want to be number one on the media team. As long as, I can do
Oh
that.
man, are you starting to just go down the media team list?
I mean, there's only Kevin that's ahead of me.
Oh, okay. In the rankings.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
see,
yeah.
I feel like some people got confused on the insiders comments when you started talking about that. Okay.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
saying that on
I
the
don't want to be the
rankings.
number one. Like, yeah.
I thought you were trying to like start like a side league with the media team.
No, I mean, like against each other grappling.
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, I mean, I
don't
would
know how
win
we
that
were-
for sure. I think I'd have to look at it, especially like I don't know who else is in there, but yeah, I don't know, but definitely I should be ranked higher than Kevin. That's just the main thing.
That's
you
the
know.
main takeaway here.
That's the main takeaway, and I don't have it pulled up right now, but it was kind of interesting. Is like there's guys that are on the list, and from I was like, hey, your season wasn't that tough, but 4 guys in the top 10 were in my season.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means. It means it's kind of freaking tough. Maybe.
Look, man, I've seen some of those
if it
arguments.
doesn't hold up the weight, then that's what I'm saying. Like if it didn't hold up weight, then how are 4 of them still in the top 10?
Well, and like I also will make the argument too that like I've seen through the seasons that like it's definitely not gotten worse. And for sure though, like it was sprinkled in there, but every season, especially as somebody who's been observing and filming and documenting all the seasons, every season everybody goes, "Oh my god." Like everybody's so good. Like and they say that and then also nobody in there thinks they suck.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody in
point,
there
yeah.
realizes they're the dunkable.
That's the beauty of it all. And so, it mostly for jokes, all this stuff for me now at this point. Obviously,
I feel
hopefully
you.
everybody gets that. I'll do the match or whatever, and I'll still kill him. But it's just for laughs, though.
I'll kill him for laughs.
His mom was watching the Insiders the other day when we're doing the promo on him, and she commented, and I was like, "Oh man, I don't know if I like this heel turn."
So are you saying you're not sure if you could stay heel if you had to like slap the ice cream out of the kid's hand?
Dude, yeah, I don't know.
Look, this is hey, all right. Look, you better not break kayfabe. Killing Kevin is slapping the ice cream. Okay,
It's necessary sometimes.
it has to happen.
No, but see, I think Kevin is the more natural heel character here. But
See, but he's the lovable all American, like hair flip. He's got you there.
see, if you look back, he didn't even have the haircut last time.
That is a deep cut.
He had a bad haircut. That's why I brought it up. Because I was asking for it. It made me mad. I was like, I better get the hair flip or I'm never interviewing you again. And he's like, I got the haircut wrong, man. I don't really have the. And I was like, oh, you're dead to me then. That was literally all you had.
That was the line.
Everybody's got good jujitsu. We know that. That's the baseline. What else you got? At least for me now on the show, I know everybody's good. I gotta talk to you. You gotta play. Or not play necessarily, but at least be serious in your interview and say what you're something. Call them out. Tell them you're the best. Whatever it is. Something.
Yeah. I think Kevin said it on the last episode, or I don't know, one of these episodes. He goes in the back and he tells the guys that, like, when you hop on the mic, like, yeah, he's like, don't thank your mama and love your dog and like, yeah. We know you. We know you love your mama. We all love our mamas.
Yeah, and that's why I try to lean into some of that stuff too when I go up there to the guys. It's like, man, we know you work so hard. We know you're, we all know that stuff. Tell me something else.
Basically. Be entertaining. Be you. Mm-hmm. Be like, what were you cutting up with in the back? Like, what joke were you? Well,
we absolutely love you, but
some of that. Save something for the documentary.
I don't even know what's on the documentary next. It's coming out Friday though.
It's coming out Friday, and as you said that, I forgot everything that was on it. It's episode.
It's that homeschooling.
Is it episode 5 that we're on? Yeah, episode 5, and it's their final day. They're going into their that a lot of them are just now realizing how beat up they really are. it's an
day
interesting
3 is always
day.
the hardest day. Like this episode highlighted
Yeah.
day 3, the most recent one, and that's always to me the day that everybody really realizes what they've gotten
have to
into for
win.
sure.
Yeah.
And then, the last day, you could find out. You can find out a lot about a person when they think they're out.
Who the real ones are.
Who thinks they're just out and doesn't do it.
They show their cards real fast.
And it's there's no, right or wrong reason. Nobody was obligated to do anything or not do anything. But as a competitor, that's always the thing that I say and want people to understand is like when everything's going well, it's easy. Everything's great when it's going well and you're being dominant. But when you're getting your butt handed to you some, that's when it really matters. That's where your character really starts to show up a lot more. And dude, it sucks to go out there and just look and say, I got beat. I got my butt kicked. I got, lost to this guy that I don't want to lose to. But it happened, and that's the game. You just got to be willing to live with it or whatever, and that's sports.
Kamoy said it best. You just got to laugh.
Yeah, man. Like some of the greatest people of all time in their given sports have never won a championship. Some of everybody's favorites of all time have never won a World Series or a Super Bowl or an NBA title or any UFC belts or whatever. They've never been the guy or the girl, but they're everybody's favorite because they show up.
And they play.
They're always there.
They're
always in the game. They're hustling. They want to do the thing. They try to do the thing.
Yeah.
The striving is where it's important.
That's the sport. Winning isn't necessarily sport. The pursuit of winning is the sport.
I think that's life, right? The pursuit of something. Everybody should be pursuing like positive something, though, not necessarily just pursuing anything, but just like trying to pursue mastery in some element, whether that's sports or anything else. But you just got to be doing something, I think, or we, I don't know, just not being our best selves, I guess I would say. I don't want to say anything negative about people that may not be doing that as much, but you're definitely not being your best self if you're not constantly trying to find something to master.
Well, it's not challenging that, I mean, it's even in, you talk about the champions that get into the rut of being the champion. Like sometimes you've got to, if you stop challenging yourself, like it stops giving you that thing.
Brandon said something the other day. Is like giving it all is like the baseline to be the champion.
Yeah,
everybody that's going to be the champion has to give everything.
Yeah,
but giving does not guarantee that you're going to be the champion. But if you don't give everything, you will not be the champion.
Yeah.
It's like, dang, that's right though. You've got to sell out, believing it, or at least not caring that it won't happen. Because if you don't, you won't make it. But there's no guarantee that you're going to get it just because you did it to the best of your ability as hard as you could either. Like that's it, but you still got to pursue it.
Yeah.
And that's what we're all doing here, I think. And that's who we want on the field, so to say.
Yeah.
On the mat, on the whatever, on the mics, on the commentary, on the cameras. Everybody, the referees, that's who we want. We want the people that are pursuing excellence in
that's sold out.
Field. Yep.
That are sold out in whatever they're trying to do. Because to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish and what you're talking about, like that's what it takes. Like you said, that's the entry fee. Yep. That's literally just the show up fee.
That's the payment to get in the door. Yeah. Yep. It's interesting. And that really hit me. I was like, man, thank you for saying that way. That was really profound. I like that. I probably heard something similar before, but the way that they said it that time, I was like, man, that's.
Or maybe the student was ready.
Yeah, maybe now was the time to hear it.
Yeah.
In a different kind of way. So
that doesn't matter until you've been asked to give everything. If you've never been asked to give everything, then you're just like, what do you mean? But then when you're sitting at the table and it's like, well, why are you here?
Yep.
And that's something that like to like pull it full closed is like that's like what you see in the documentary. Like you see that question get posed to people, whether verbally like actually posed to them or just like you see them like you have to ask yourself something at some point of like, why am I here?
And it's hard.
That's a
That
tough
answer.
That's tough to answer.
So it's cool, man. This is fun. There's like a lot of stuff here. Hopefully, anybody that stayed here this long, we love you guys. We appreciate y'all
100%.
going through all those different things with us here. But this is us though. This is like what it would be like if you were sitting around chit chatting too. We would talk about all the work stuff that we talk about, sprinkled in with some science that's not supported very much, and
Some
laughing
life
at
lessons.
you Danny McBride themed comedy jokes.
All right. See everybody next week, 10 a.m. ish, somewhere
Much love.
right here.